Here are the parts of the guitar. First thing are the tuning pegs here. And if your guitar is set up correctly, as you turn them to the this way, counterclockwise, they should tighten, so the pitch should go higher. And as you go clockwise, they should loosen. Sometimes some of the guitars get set up incorrectly, and they may be the reverse of that, you'll know. So it's a good thing maybe to check those as you're tuning. You can also see it. Strings are strung in the traditional way. The string will come into the inside to the tuning pegs. The part right here is called the nut, and it's usually made of plastic or used to be made of bone. Right. Each of these metal pieces are called frets. It's really important as we start to play more chords that you are behind the fret, but as close to the fret as possible without going over the fret. This is the fretboard. Cheaper guitars, they will use sometimes a cheaper wood, and then as you get pay for more expensive guitars, they may use rosewood or ebony or something like that. Circle part. So this is called the sound hole, and it's part of how the strings are amplified. If you just took one of these strings and you just attached it in the air and you went bing, it would just sound like bing. It wouldn't be very loud. Having a sound hole and then the body of the guitar helps the strings to resonate as the sound goes inside. It vibrates the wood and vibrates inside and then comes out through the sound hole. It amplifies it. Yeah, so I think the next one was the body of the guitar. All right, it's quite common for the top of the guitar to be made of Sitka spruce because it's easy to work with, and it's fairly light and it's fairly strong, and you can bend it. All right, so you can see how this is bent. And then finally, the last thing is the bridge. And as we're looking at the violin shortly, probably tomorrow, you'll see there's a lot of the same parts in common. So it also has a bridge and the bridge here. All right. A few more things. My guitar is a Cutaway. Cutaways are a slightly more complex shape to make, so their cutaways are always more expensive. The advantage is as you start to play chords up here, it's easier for your hand to reach up here. And then lastly, a lot of acoustics, as you start to pay above the $200 price point, will include a pickup. And all that is a electronic piece that will take the sound from the strings and amplify it. So it will also come in tandem with a port for a patch cord, which I could plug into an amplifier. The action of the guitar. The action has to do with how far the strings are away from the, making sure you're awake, away from the fretboard. And there's actually a place inside that this can be adjusted, and I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you know what you're doing, but that will adjust the action of it, and it can make the strings closer or farther away from the fretboard. You want them as close as possible without bumping on the frets. So we talked very quickly about the wood that is used for guitars. You'll see, and it might be kind of fun to do this online. If you do a little search, you can see some guitars made of zebra wood and some really interesting exotic woods. And they are harder to work with, and they tend to be more expensive, as well as it's important to think of environmental considerations. So if you are harvesting wood like jatoba, which is Brazilian cherry wood, a lot of that comes from places where it might change the ecosystem, and plus there's the environmental impact of transporting the wood. So just one more thing with the pickup there. It also has some other features. Okay, so it has volume. That's what gain is. Gain and volume are somewhat similar. And then it also has this EQ strip, which will make you will help the sound adjust. So higher frequencies can be brought out, bass frequencies can be brought out, or the higher frequencies can be brought out. Okay. And then finally, the strings come in different gauges. All right, my guitar is set with heavy gauge strings just so that I have lots of practice with that. And it's nice because it gives a nice big sound, but they're harder to push down. All right, it's harder to push down. So the trade-off is the heavier the gauge, the strings, that means the thickness of them, okay? The harder they are to play, but the bigger sound they have. Whereas most of the acoustics that I have for the school have a lighter gauge string, and they are easier to play. You don't have to push as hard, but if your guitar and my guitar were having a play off, this guitar would be a little bit louder.